Hi everybody, this is Josh with Josh Wright Piano TV. Today's video is dedicated to Jeremy, and he asked about parallel sixths and fifths and fourths. So I just decided to call this video Parallel Intervals. Because there's a lot of variety in the passage that he had asked about. And certainly there's many examples that I could reference here. I'm going to reference two examples. In specific, there's one that he asked about. The first one that I'll play, the one that he had requested, is Rachmaninoff Elegie. If you've ever heard this, it's one of the most heartbreaking pieces ever. So beautiful. Anyway, that's just the beginning part, just to introduce each of you to the piece. In the middle, the B section, he shifts to something that is in a major key. So. That little passage can be kind of tricky. I recently recorded this on part of my new album called My Favorite Things, and I did a little personal mashup with the Schindler's List theme. So it's just kind of a creative little project that I did for this new CD. But I remember having to learn this section, and it was pretty tough. Just like I started learning these types of concepts, these parallel intervals, quite heavily when I did the Chopin etudes. So I haven't played this for like 10 years. That's the Chopin etude number 20. I think it's Opus 10 number 8 or Opus 25 number 8. It's a piece all about sixths. So parallel sixths. And this Rachmaninoff has some parallel fourths, fifths, and sixths. So I want to give you several ways to practice this, and then I'll give another example. The first example is just to do high fingers. This is a real basic intro. And what it's doing is it's making things deliberate in your hands so that your mind can organize this very specifically and deliberately. So notice what I'm doing is I'm lifting up my one, and if you're fingering, it depends on how big your hands are. My hands are quite large, so I like to use 4-2-3-1 for this first one. Most people, I'm guessing, will be a little more comfortable with 5-2-3-1. 5-2-3-1. Whatever you use is fine, just figure out which one's more comfortable for you. But if I'm playing the 3-1, those two fingers are down, the 4 and the 2 are up. Same thing when I go down with the 4-2. The 3-1 comes up, so that you can really feel, and on to the parallel fifth and sixth. Or you can use that fingering, or this fingering, which is probably a bad idea to use 4 on the top there. I'd use 5 for sure. Okay, so that's the first thing. Get really deliberate. Second thing, let's get really comfortable by alternating the articulation. Notice I'm doing several more repetitions than is written in the music. You can just sit and focus on one little group over and over. What I'm doing here is by alternating the articulation, because really it's supposed to just be smooth, I'm giving my hand lots of different ways of feeling the passage. If you vary it up, it will help. A lot of people just sit and practice with really close fingers. It becomes this garbled mess, so you don't want to do that. So try staccatoing the bottom notes and legato on the top notes. Do the opposite. voicing your bottom notes. That is a concept that I use to help voicing. So always end with legato on the top and staccato on the bottom to reinforce that good voicing. Okay? The next thing I would do is this tricky little exercise. A lot of people asked me about this to clarify it. So I'm going to go through this very slowly. This is a little technique I picked up from my Russian teacher. Amazing exercise. What you do is take the first note in the right hand. It's an E flat. Okay? Now, I'm just going to play that, and then I'm going to make this little pattern on the bottom of triplets. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Because the bottom notes of each chord is B flat and then G flat. Okay? So I'm going to go. There's my first triplet. Okay, now I go to the next top right hand note, which is a D flat. Okay. Again, to recap, you're just basically going 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a in the top, and in the left hand you're just going 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a. That's a little brain teaser there, but what it's doing is it's kind of complicating things, and it's making you really know which notes line up with the top note. So notice it's always coming in correctly with the right chord. Okay, and then you do the opposite. So make this a little 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a, and then do 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4. That's a really tricky thing, but what it will get you used to doing is these notes always come together, those notes always come together. Finally, I just like to put some simple rhythms to it to start with, and I don't like to get too fancy with these, but you can. I just like to do long, short, long, short, long, short. Just to get that feeling in my hand, and then I'll do another one because everyone's probably going nuts that I'm playing that same thing over and over again. Here we go, and then I'll do short, long, short, long. So you're noticing probably that I'm playing everything really forte. That's actually intentional. You can play it softer, doing all these things, but the reason I'm doing it forte is to really kind of make it ingrained in my hands. When you play soft, sometimes it's not as deliberate of a motion, and you get a little bit weaker of a technique. That's why I do fortissimo when I'm doing my work, and then I'll go in afterwards once my hand is really comfortable with the technique and put in the voicing, phrasing, dynamics, all those things. Okay, finally, you can start getting more complicated with the rhythms over a long period of time. So on each individual one, you could do like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But then, wow, that is hard. Okay. See how difficult that is, like doing a 5 rhythm, or you could do a 4 rhythm, and then alternate it one more note over. So get rid of the first note. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And a lot of people might think, man, you're a man of few tricks because you're always going back to these rhythms. Well, to be honest, these rhythms can basically fix anything. I mean, I feel like I've been very lucky in being able to take from some of the best teachers in the world, and they always, all 3 of them, have gone back to the concept of do rhythm practice to get good at this. One other example, just in case you're studying it, is the Chopin F major, that Nocturne. It is opus, let's see, I was just teaching this in a lesson the other day, Op.15 No.1. In the middle, I'm not going to do this because I've never actually learned it. I'm just going to do the right hand. It's really easy to get tangled up in there because it's parallel sixths. I would Very tough passage, but it's absolutely you can absolutely fix it. First of all, figure out what fingering is more comfortable for you. 3, 1, 5, 2. I actually like that because my hands are quite big, but I think I would use 4 or 5 on the top if your hands are normal size or small. And that's not quite where I'd want it, so I'd have to work through all these things I just prescribed for each of you. And then doing this one. Okay, so there's lots of techniques, but I've given you the basic ones in order to kind of equalize that in your hand. One last tip, if you're accenting one of them, or practice accenting the opposite one. So if you're accenting the tops, try accenting the bottoms. And do the opposite as well. That kind of goes through and equalizes things in your hand, and it makes it more smooth within the hand. I hope this video has been helpful. This is certainly a difficult concept, and I send my best to Jeremy and anyone else struggling with this concept. If anyone has questions or would like to audition for my private online studio through Skype, just email me. My email is josh@joshwrightpiano.com. Thanks so much for joining me today.